there, chipmunks! Welcome to the AMP Cycling Ride Review Series. I'm your host, Angry Chipmunk, and today we're back in Italy for another of the PedalItaly routes. This is the Matera Basilicata ride. This route is available on Rouvy, so let's get right to it. This is a moderate length route at 29.5 kilometers long with a decent amount of elevation gain at 646 meters. The whole ride averages just 2% and will max out at 10%. There are only 2 Strava segments included on Rouvy, with just the 2 on Strava as well. There's a few other smaller hills along the way, spread pretty evenly throughout the route. To the first segment is a bit of up and down with a peak of about 6.5% before a nice cruisy downhill leads into the segment. And then the first segment is Monte Scaglioso. It's at the 7.6 kilometer mark, is 4.84 kilometers long, with 264 meters of elevation gain averaging 5.4% and peaking at the route max of 10%. Strava considers this to be a Cat 3 climb. It starts pretty mellow for about 1 kilometer before hitting the steeper sections in the middle. Here you'll be seeing mostly 3 to 4% before hitting pinches where it increases to 7 to 10%. There's another short reprieve before the last 1 kilometer where it again increases to mostly the 5 to 7% range. It's not the steepest of segments, but still watch for those lighter yellow spots to help conserve energy and push up the steeper sections. It's not a bad one to try and push up pretty hard, as just following the segment is a nice long 4 kilometers of downhill. And at the bottom of the hill, you do have a very mellow uphill to the next segment. It's mostly around 0 to 1%, but there are a few short pinches that max out around 7%. It's not a very difficult part of the route and easy to push along here pretty quickly if you like. The second segment is Matera Hill. It's at the 23 kilometer mark, is 5.86 kilometers long, with 248 meters of elevation gain, averaging 4.2% and peaking at 7%. Strava also considers this to be a Cat 3 climb. This one is also very mellow at the start and doesn't really see any steepness until about 1.5 kilometers in. Even then, it's just a short section containing the peak gradient before returning to a very manageable 4 to 6%. This is a pretty long segment, but with such a mild average, it's really no trouble to push along pretty hard. There's about 580 meters of downhill after the segment that leads to the finish of the route, and that's it. And for this ride, you'll actually be needing a pretty good warm-up and cool-down. The start of the route is a bit hillier and steeper than it looks, so I would suggest to give about 10 minutes warm-up, and definitely give this one at least 10 minutes cool-down as well. The ending does have that very short downhill, but it's of no use to anything, so treat this as an uphill finish. And as always, I recommend pre-fueling your rides and including plenty of protein with that. This is not a super long ride, but with over 600 meters of elevation gain, you'll definitely be wanting fuel on board and a refuel during the ride itself. The downhill after the first segment is a great place to grab a bar, and I would say have around 15 grams or so. The segments aren't super steep, but both are pretty long, so it's also a good idea to have some faster acting carbs on hand in case you need them during the climbs. And definitely follow this one up with a protein and a magnesium of some sort. Now the view on this ride is amazing as always. Any trip through the Italian countryside is going to be beautiful, and this route doesn't disappoint. The weather was perfect on the day they filmed with a bright blue cloudless sky. It really contrasts well against the bright green rolling hills. There's a good mix of roads here with some enclosed and some city views. I'm not sure if some of what you see are old ruins or just derelict buildings, but either way, they add a really nice flavor to the scene. I was a bit slower on this one and finished it in about 1 hour 20 minutes. With needing a pretty good warm-up and cool-down, I would say to budget anywhere from 1 hour to 1 hour 45 for this one. I wouldn't suggest for those with time restrictions, as hilly routes can sometimes catch you out with their difficulty. It can be paused and picked up again at a later date, however, if you stop just after the first segment. The downhill and flatter section make for an okay start. Ideally, I would do it all at once though, so as not to break the flow. Overall, this is a fantastic route that I would definitely recommend for the intermediate level rider and up. It's not a great choice for newer climbers as the climbs are a bit long. They're not overwhelmingly difficult though, so if you're wanting a route for upping those elevation gains, this could be a good choice. It's a nice stepping stone to higher elevation routes. If you're a more experienced rider, this is just a great ride with beautiful views. For this route, I give a 5 out of 5. Really nice mix of city and countryside riding. Even the countryside varies with some more open roads and some enclosed. There's lots of twists and turns to keep things interesting. For the climbs, 3 out of 5 and 2 out of 5. Neither are super difficult here. I would say the greatest challenge of them lies in the distance. Most climb segments are usually around 2 to 3 kilometers, so 4 to 5 kilometers is a bit more of a slog. The easier gradients do make them good for training for newer climbers though. For the view, 5 out of 5 of course. The PedalItaly rides definitely pick some of the most beautiful spots in Italy for their routes. It's well worth looking around on this one just to check everything out. And overall, 5 out of 5. Definitely put this one in your ride queue. Really great intermediate ride for when you want some kind of challenge, but nothing over the top. Good for upping your elevation gains in preparation for tackling Monte Zoncolan. Well, that's it for this review, so thanks for watching, chipmunks. Let me know what you think of the Matera Basilicata route when you complete it. I'll leave you to finish the rest of the ride, and I'll see you in 2 weeks for another review. Until then, ride on, chipmunks! Ride on.